Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to us. We would love to hear your comments and your questions. As of right now, there's no one in the chat room, but the chat room is on. So we hope that you'll join us today. This is Wednesday, middle of the week. It is actually our last day of our 9-day intensive. Michael's down at the Heart Center doing the final closing program with 30 participants. And it has been a phenomenal, actually 18 days. We had most of these people were here for the 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive and stayed over for the 9-day teachers training. And this quality of teachers that are going out to the world is going to be phenomenal to help take this work to every heart, mind, and being on the planet, which is what our goal is. And we would like for you to join us as well. If you're not familiar to our show, we focus mainly on the Aramaic tool of forgiveness. We have a lot of other tools that we use as well. And just like having a toolbox at home with screwdrivers and hammers and pliers and different tools do different things. But the forgiveness tool is one of our most powerful tools for changing the reality in your mind and being able to change patterns in your life, change habits, change ways of thinking to give hope for something different. To make a change on this planet, when enough people make a change to address the wars that are within themselves, within their own members, then we'll see a change with the physical wars between nations, but it has to start with the smaller wars that are in us. So Aramaic forgiveness is not letting another person off the hook for what you are experiencing. It is going inside and removing the energies that do not belong in us to begin with. You can go to our website, whyagain.com. That's WHYAGAIN.com. Soon to be whyagain.org. And you can go out and play around on the new website. It's looking great. We have Danielle and Susan, who are actually helping us to revamp the whole site, are actually here for the 9-day Why 9-day teacher training. So the work on the .org site has been going a little bit slower, but we'll get all the links eventually up there. But you can go out and you can play around there now, and it is phenomenal how it looks. So we invite you to do that. Whereas on our whyagain.com, our worksheets are over on the left-hand side where it says download worksheets. On the whyagain.org site, it's up near the top. Danielle's also fixing some of the little mini worksheets where you can download them to your phone. Nobody has an excuse for not being able to do a worksheet because you can have it right with you. Most phones will download that nowadays. That's a tremendous little tool that we have added to the pot. So we want to welcome you to our show, 646-200-4169. Several people on the switchboard. If you want to talk to me, press 1. That puts you in queue. Michael will join us as soon as he finishes the closing of the class. So I'm open to hear your comments and your questions. Until someone calls in, I'll just talk a little more about some of the experiences that are going on here at the intensive. We've had 4 people here at this intensive who were actually combat vets. and they have made some tremendous changes in their life. You know, I'm actually in a psychology class right now. I'm going for my degree, and one of the things that we're talking about in this class is, do people behave the way they behave because it's predetermined in them, it's genetic or hereditary, or is it because of their environment, or is it a combination of the two? And my response so far in the class posting is that, yes, we all have a predisposition for different tendencies to behave certain ways. You know, like, let's say one of the examples that they use in the book is someone who abuses their children. There's a huge percentage of them that over, like 80% or something, that they were abused as a child. And so the textbook says, well, they're predetermined that that's what they're going to do. It's in their genetics. And then if their environment, they're beat up and everything, so their environment emphasizes that and adds energy to it, and so they don't have a choice. And I say, yes, we all have choice. We may be predetermined to do a certain thing or to act a certain way or even to have certain diseases. But that doesn't mean that we have to be locked into that. We all have choice every day of our life. It reminds me of the GPS system in the car. We can be driving down the road and it picks the quickest route to go from point A to point B. And sometimes we'll be going that route, following it along, and all of a sudden traffic slows down. And so I will look on the map, I'll blow it up and look and see, can we get off one exit early and go down one of the little side roads? Can we go through town or something like that and get around this traffic jam and then later get back up on the interstate? Well, what happens when we choose to do that and we take off on this different route? The GPS will say, you're off route, you need to do a U-turn, you need to turn around. And after a few minutes, though, it kind of gives up and sees that I'm not going to do what it's telling me to do. And it'll say, okay, rerouting or recalculating. And it will adjust, picking up where I am at that point in our journey, and then give me a different route to go. And so that's how our life is, too. We may have a predetermined path that it's expected that you're going to act a certain way or do a certain thing or go a certain way. But we always have choice, that we can get off, we can detour, we can go a different way, we can make changes. One of the biggest ways that we can make that change is forgiveness, and that is not letting another person off the hook for what they're triggering in you, but that is going inside and removing what doesn't belong in you. You say, what do you mean what doesn't belong in you? We are an energy system. If you could have a magnifying glass close enough to zoom in on your hand, you would see that you're just all these little molecules, these protons, neutrons, and everything just swirling and circling all this energy. You could actually, mostly it's light, you could actually see through it. Our eye can't keep up with that rate of spin, so we turn it into something solid that we call our body. But we're actually energy. So when you look at it through that perspective, through energy, through physics, through science, you can add energy to another energy field. It will either be an energy that builds that field up and makes it stronger, or it will be something that tears it down and makes it weaker. So if we are created in the image of the Creator, and it says God is love, that means we are love. It's their very essence. We always go back and tell people, hold a newborn child. Think of the essence of that newborn and tap into it and put a word to it. And it's always words like wonderful, awesome, miracle, peaceful, joy, pure, open, all of those things. That's what we are. So if that's what we are, then anything less than that we put into our field will make us weaker. It will tear us down. If we add more love, if we amplify our love, we expand our love, all of those things make us stronger. So what energies is it that makes us weaker? Well, less than love would be things like fear, anger, hostility, grief, sadness. So you put those in your field, and it actually becomes a molecule in your system called a neuropeptide. And it travels through your system, lands on a cell, the cell replicates it. You're now living with the chemistry of that fear, anger, hostility, whatever. So it becomes your disease. And you get enough cells that are diseased, they fall apart, and you physically die. energy transforms. There's no beginning, there's no end. It will change its form. So when we physically would die, then the energy is still there, and it transforms into something else. But to keep this energy field, this physical body going, we have to take care of it. And one of the things we have to do is to watch what energy we put in. So as a child, usually around the age of 4 or 5, something happens, something comes along, and we begin to think that just being who we are is not enough. We have to do something, we have to act a certain way, say a certain thing, behave in a certain path, go a certain way to make everything stay smooth and nice and be approved of. And we start mixing up approval for love. And so we want to keep being approved of. And so then we become this human doing instead of this human being. And our disease process begins because we've actually given up who we really are. I told this story one day this week. It's actually on our website, and it's about the rose and the butterfly. And they meet and they fall in love, and one day the butterfly flies away. And because the rose thinks there's nothing greater than the love of that butterfly, it uproots itself to give chase. What's going to happen when a rose uproots itself? It's going to die because it made something else more important than staying connected to its source. Our source is love. Our source is, whether you want to call it the love within you, whether you want it to call it the universal love or God that is love, whatever's your belief system on that, there is something greater than we are. But it's tapping into that source, and that's where we get our energy. And when we disconnect from that because we think something else is more important, when we say, my being angry towards this person or my being fearful towards this event is more important than me staying connected to the love in me, then we actually initiate our own death. And so this program is about supporting you to go back to life, to let go of the momentum towards death. It's like inertia bound. Inertia is an object moving in a particular direction at a particular rate of speed, and it will continue in that direction and at that same rate of speed until it's acted upon by an outside force. Forgiveness and love is that outside force. We're here to help you to tap into that, to get out of the inertia-bound path that this world has created, to reroute and go a different way than your GPS is sending you right at the moment, and to do something different. And I have a caller, area code 970. You're on the air. Who do I have? You're not coming through except as little bleeps. Perhaps you can hang up and dial back in. I don't know if your signal's bad or what, but you're not coming through. So our calling number is 646-200-4169. We'll wait for that phone to come back in. I just got bumped out of the chat room, so hang on just a moment. And it's a little challenging for me to read in the chat room and talk at the same time. So my apologies. I'll catch up with the conversation in the chat room when Michael gets on the phone. And I don't have to split my attention there. 970, you're back. Let's see if we got a better connection.
Hey, Jeanie, it's Terry in Colorado. Can you hear me this time?
Hi, Terry. Yes, I can.
Hi.
Welcome. Good to hear from you.
I just wanted to tell you, I just love hearing your talk. It's always, you're just a nice amplification of, Michael's teachings, and it's just nice to hear just you add in a few more words and a few more thoughts, and it's just really nice to hear your kind of, your description of the concepts. It's really, really cool. So I wanted to tell you, I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you telling me that. It has definitely been a little bit of a challenge. We had Ari here for Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and for the first 9 days, and he stayed for a couple of days of the teacher's training. So I have actually been in charge of the kitchen since he's been gone. And then my school has started back. And then I have to run up here to the house to do the radio show in between classes. Wow. But it has really been a challenge for me to pick up the show when Michael's busy in class, but I'm doing my best. So thank you for that acknowledgement.
Well, you know what? There's no question that you are highly intelligent, and it's really fun to see you partnering with Michael and kind of really so into it and expressing. I mean, how lucky are you guys in being partners to share this vision and this journey, and just really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I wanted to just share with you and with whoever ends up listening to this how unbelievably profound it has been for me since I came home from the intensive. And I've actually been watching the DVDs, kind of pretty consistently. I had before, and I am still. But I am not kidding. I'm going into this state, Michael calls it process point, where sometimes my conscious mind has a hard time staying really present even when I'm watching the video. But I have like moments of being out and then moments of back in, and I am so what I'm experiencing as I kind of absorb more of this teaching into sort of the cells of my being, how I come out of those sort of unconscious moments when I'm watching the videos, and I am feeling like better than I've ever felt in my life. I mean, I can talk about neuropeptides, and then getting the neuropeptides that go with understanding love, and understanding how to let go of generations of fear and hostility, and the kind of neuropeptides that start coming in at that point. It is just amazing. It's really, I was just laughing yesterday. I mean, I was like, it's really taught me, just really immersing myself in this has really taught me about a whole other level of well-being, and I'm so excited to, share these concepts in my upcoming book, and I'm just really, it's just, I don't know, I just wanted to say how amazing and wonderful it is to really begin, and how much of a shift I've been feeling in my whole body, my brain, my whole occiput, the back part of my head. Every time this is happening, I feel like it's completely rewiring itself. And it's just really cool. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks. It's really, really, really neat. So I just want to encourage, I'm encouraging the people that I know, to just, because I think just continuing immersion in this in order to shift ourselves out of 2,000 years worth of programmed thinking that isn't according to our highest state of being, it takes it takes some time and some commitment, and I think it's easy for the world to pull on us and want to pull us back into routines and situations that are of that old style of thinking, but to just keep reprogramming, activating this new connection to our newborn state, to Ruka Dukusha and Rakma, and keep going through those shifts. It's so exciting. So thank you for being on the path. I just so appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate your support too. Thank you, Carrie, and thanks for calling in.
Okay. You have a good one, and we'll keep you posted.
Okay, hon. Thanks. Love you. Bye-bye. So Michael and I originally had planned on leaving here tomorrow and heading up to Canada. And there's just so much else going on that we decided to take a couple of days. We thought, it's going to make us miss his family reunion in Canada, but we'll spend a couple of weeks or so up there and visit around to everybody and still get to see them. And then we talked to his brother this morning on the phone and find out that it's been raining in Canada and that perhaps they're not going to have it this weekend, that they're going to put it off for a week or two and reschedule it because it's going to be in a park. It's outdoors. So it looks like, okay, the universe is just playing right along with us. It's going to give us time we actually haven't unpacked the van yet from where we've been on the road for 10 months. So we have to unpack it to repack it, figure out what's in there. And then we'll get on the road, and it looks like we're still going to get up there in time to do his family reunion, which is phenomenal. So I'm thankful for that. And we haven't been up there with his family in probably 3 years. So it's time for us to spend a little time up there. And there are no coincidences. The other day we had someone in the chat room who is in Canada. And so I chatted with them and got some information from them and told them when we were up there that we'd get in touch with them. They were just like 30 minutes away. And then yesterday we had a caller call in, and she's from Canada. So it looks like something may come together, and we might actually even do some workshops while we're up there, which would be phenomenal. And then after that, we're going to be moving west. We're supposed to be in Southern California and San Diego towards the end of October. So we don't have anything particularly scheduled. So if you have a venue and you're somewhere in the pathway from Canada to San Diego, then give us a call and let's see if we can work you in the schedule. And we'll plan on stopping by. All of our workshops are done free, except for one that we do occasionally, and that's an all-day mind shifter, still point breathing workshop. That one has a small fee to it. The rest of our workshops are all free. And that's so that anybody and everybody can attend, regardless of whether they have money. The work is about getting these tools into everyone's hands so that we can see that shift. It's like, baking bread. You have to use just a little bit of yeast, and it raises the whole loaf. That's what was referenced in the scriptures when it talked about a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. They weren't talking about bread in that. They were talking about critical mass. And it's the same concept, though. You make little changes, it changes the whole loaf. So when enough of us choose to go to the mind of love, to get back to our original being, then it'll make a whole shift on the planet. It's like the 100th monkey theory. And I don't have that right in front of me or have it open, but it's where there were some studies on some monkeys on an island, and they were washing their food off, getting the sand off of it. And when one group on one island learned how to do that, it was like that habit was being seen all over the place, even to other monkeys who hadn't gone through that same process. And so it's like you hit a critical mass, and then boom, it's like everybody's got it. So we're wanting to get to critical mass, to peace on this planet. So if you want to be part of that, it requires you going in and doing your inner work. Sometimes that's not always Dr. Feelgood. We've seen that here in the intensive too. People have, especially, I mentioned a while ago that we had 4 combat vets, and they have seen and done some things that have left horrible imprints in their minds. And we've seen how they can move through and shift and change that way of thinking, that they don't have to be stuck with that there is hope that they can do something else. And so each person has to go inside and face it. In our worksheet, there's one step in it that says to be willing to go through the mental, physical, emotional symptoms of healing. And what that talks about is that all of the energies as they go into your system create symptoms, whether it's a mental abuse and it creates some kind of symptom of like maybe depression or some kind of emotional stress, whether it's some kind of toxin that you took, whatever it is, just let's use the example of a cold. And the cold is not a disease. It's actually a body that's healthy enough trying to throw off what doesn't belong. And so, you're sneezing, you're coughing, all of these things, trying to get it out of your body. And then what does the medicine on the shelf say that you take to suppress the symptoms of your cold? So you stuff that snot back in your body, and it's going to have to come back out again, but this time a little stronger. Maybe it comes back out as the flu. You stuff that in, you take something to keep from throwing up or have diarrhea, then it's got to come back out as something else, perhaps bronchitis. Perhaps then the next step after that will be some kind of pneumonia, and then who knows? After that, it could be cancer. Each step's going to get worse and worse and worse until you finally say, okay, hey, I'm willing to let this pass, willing to let it work through. You keep pushing it down and stuffing it down, it's going to try to come out again and again and again, and it will appear to be worse every time. So it's easier as it comes up to let it come up and let it move out and be done with it. So, we can either face these things willingly and consciously and let them move out. There's things you can do to help it move more smoothly, like, for instance, with a cold. You can do lemon water with cayenne pepper. The cayenne breaks up the mucus. The lemon water flushes it out. So it's not stopping the elimination, but it's just helping it to move out of your system smoother and quicker. There's things like colloidal silver, which is a natural antibiotic. So there's other things you can do. It doesn't mean not to do anything. And that doesn't mean to not ever take a drug. In a crisis situation where it's life-threatening, a drug can definitely, buy you time. But it's never going to heal you. The healing is always inside. Once you heal whatever it is that created that disease to start with, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, and I say it as dis-ease. You're not at ease. So when that energy goes in and it creates that symptom, when you truly heal, the crystals within your structure melt. They yield up their contents. And as that's moving back out of your system, the symptoms may look the same. I've seen people down here just in these last 18 days that they'll go through. There was this one lady, this was actually last year. She was actually throwing up. She was so sick and everything. And, we were asking her, when have you ever felt this way? She said her head was just busting. I never have headaches and all this. When she finally worked through it, she remembered that for like 10 years she hated her job and she had a migraine every single day. And so it's like she had to go back through and process that, but then once she was on the other side of it, it was awesome. So you can either consciously be willing to do your work and willing to move through, willing to face the symptoms as they come up, or it kicks you in the backside every day of your life anyway. You can't escape it, so ignoring it's not going to make it go away. Those are also the things that we lock down, the energies that we don't want to look at. If you look at, depending on whose numbers you take, every cell in your body is replaced somewhere from 1 to 7 years. You don't have a single cell that you were born with. They all are replaced. So why aren't they replaced with brand new, clean, perfect cells? Because you're holding on to the energy that created the disease process to start with. Once you're willing to let that go, then the cell can go back to perfect health. And we have seen people here at the intensive that have had back issues. They've had back surgeries. This one gentleman had a shoulder surgery and couldn't hardly move his arm. And once they're willing and they move through the processes, and especially going through the breath work, and they come out of that just, all the pain's gone. I feel awesome. I feel great. And they did their own healing in the inside. The problem's inside, the solution's inside. But you have to be willing to go through it. Are you willing? Are you willing to take that step? Are you willing to do your work? Are you willing to face the energies and the things that created those energies? Are you willing to look at the situations where you developed false ideas about yourself and others and then solidified it into your body and let it go? We have tools. Our website, they're all free. You can go and you can download them. The main tool is the tool of Aramaic forgiveness, and that's how do you remove those energies. And it shows you how to do that. We have also on that website, there's like 6 different shows where we have walked people step by step through doing the worksheet. So you can listen to those and you can download the worksheet for free. It will walk you through, how do I do this? How do I remove it? So the question is, are you willing? So 646-200-4169 is our call-in number. I would love to hear from you. I'd love your comments or your questions. Give me another topic. We've got another 30 minutes to go. There's several people on the switchboard. It looks like you're all just listening. If you want to talk, please press 1. Chat room, again, I apologize. It's a challenge for me to read and talk at the same time. So I will get back with you shortly. All right, nobody's popping their hand up, so we'll go on to another subject. I would prefer to talk about something that you have a question about, but perhaps my feeling in the time until Michael joins us here, perhaps, again, there's no consequence or coincidences, and I'll hit a topic that you've just been wondering about. So one of the things I started out earlier in the show talking about whether we were predestined to go a certain direction. What happens in those cases, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier this week, you can also go back to March and April of last year. All of our shows are archived on the website, so you can go back and listen to them. We did like 12 different shows on codependence to interdependence and how to move out of codependence. But what happens is we have a person in our life who has more power over us than we feel like we did. It's usually a parent, but not always. And you can change power persons as your life goes along. A lot of people, when they get married, maybe their spouse becomes their power person, or people who join the Army, their sergeant, the Army itself becomes the power person. There's different people through your life. Perhaps you get a job and you're practically married to your job and your boss is your power person. But it's someone who you see as having power over you more than you have over yourself. And so they do behaviors, and it's sort of like we look at them as a god. You know, our survival depends on them. And we see how they behave, and, that's how they win. And so it's an unconscious thing that we take on. And when our stress gets up and the chips are down, that's exactly what we do, even though we hate it when they do it. It's like an automatic decision system. It's not that we think about it and say, oh, well, then I'm going to do this. It just happens. And so, yeah, we learn it as a child that, you know, like I was referring to physical abuse. So a child learns, you know, okay, you have to be abusive to people. And they even tie that to love. You know, oh, they love me. Or, you know, some children they'll misbehave because even if they're getting a beating afterwards, they're getting attention. And so, you know, different people, their minds go in different directions, but their behaviors could change. They don't have to be stuck with that. But we do develop patterns in our life based on what we see in our power person. And we think that that's how we have to respond and that's how we have to act. So if you have any questions on the power person, or if you see that you have a power person in your life, in the chat room, let's see, someone had asked me if I'd seen the movie called Chronicle. It's how life comes through life. I told them I hadn't seen it yet. They said it's different. This person records his life, and it shows how one thing leads to another from father, and it made me think about not only DNA-wise but emotional-wise how our genes are connected. Yes, there's actually a link on their site that you can go to. It's called Ghost in Your Genes, and it shows how even they in the study they even used people who were like at 9/11 or even back at the Holocaust, different traumatic events, and the emotions that came out of those events, whether it was, you know, during the Holocaust, you know, being, you know, starving and the mistreatment and all of the things, the fears and the desire to, you know, have food for survival and the different things like that. And then generations down, I mean, we're talking great-grandchildren that were not even thought of at the time when all of this was going on. And they carry those same traits of fear, of needing to, you know, get more food, or that they were starving, or different things, even though it's not an actuality in their world. It's in their genes, and so in their mind, it's a reality. So things like that, you know, if they're passed down, just like, you know, I've got the color of my dad's eyes and his skin, and I've got the temperament of my mom, but I've also got a lot of their emotional baggage too, things that haven't been dealt with. Those get passed on. So we can break the chain. You know, if we're willing to face it, it opens the space for the generations before us and after us to make that change. It doesn't mean that we do our work and they automatically get there. They still have to do their work. But it's like opening the door. It makes it a lot easier for them to pass through once we've done the work. I always refer to it as like playing tug of war. You know, if we're pulling on opposite ends of a rope and I decide to quit and I drop my end of the rope, it changes your game whether you want it to or not. So I've also heard they say a butterfly flapping its wings on one end of the world creates a tsunami on the other. You know, we're all connected. There's a new program out. I've sat and watched the first series of it with my son when I was in Tennessee. It's called Touch. And it's with Kiefer Sutherland as the father. And his son can see how everything is connected and how when one person does one thing, it affects another person and affects another person. And it finally ends up with this result. And so the little boy doesn't say a word, but he's constantly writing numbers and trying to move his father in a direction to see that a person does whatever it is they're supposed to do in order to get that change started. That, he can see how we're all connected like spider web between us. And so when one of us makes a shift, it opens that space to make it easier for all of us to make that shift. 646-200-4169. Press 1. It puts you in queue to talk. Peacemaker, I will look that movie up and see what it's about. I'll enjoy looking for it. 646-200-4169. Press 1 if you have a comment or a question. Sure makes the show a whole lot easier on this end when you all call in from that end and ask questions, especially for me when I'm going in about 20 directions and not real sure what topic to go on here. So we've talked about forgiveness, talk about breathing. And several years back, I took a group of young people to a conference, and there was a Jewish man there. And he was one of the keynote speakers, and he gave this awesome presentation. But the thing that stood out the most in my mind was he talked about the breath. And he said in their native tongue that God's name is really not pronounceable. It's like the breath. And he said, so the question is, he says, when you're born, are you alive because you took your first breath or because you first spoke God's name? And if you die, is it because you took your last breath or because you quit speaking God's name? The breath is so powerful. It's like we use the example of imagine an ice cube. An ice cube is H2O vibrating at a certain rate. If you apply heat to it, the catalyst heat, then it melts. It becomes a puddle. It's still H2O. It's liquid now, but it's the same H2O vibrating at a different rate. You apply more of the catalyst heat to it, and it becomes steam. And it's free-floating, and off it goes. You can't capture it. It's still H2O vibrating at a different rate. So now using that analogy, keep that in your mind, we have trauma or disease locked in their body. It seems solid and real. It appears physical. We apply the catalyst breath, and it loosens it up. We apply more breath, and it just, like the vapor, and it's gone. We've had 2 breath sessions the last 9 days here, and it's been really awesome to watch people. First, they start out in resistance, and they're not wanting to let go, and we're telling them just to breathe, connected breath, and just stay with it. Most people can't cry without tightening up. Their face all scrunches up, and their throat tightens up, and all of this, and their whole body. That's holding on, and that is tight. If they just breathe, that's letting go. And we've seen them go from being all tense and tight, and their fingers are curled up, and they're in resistance and crying and wailing, and it's like, okay, now just breathe. Stay with it. Let that be okay. Your body's doing different things. Let it be okay and just breathe. And when they do, then they go into what we call still point, and it's just an ultimate space where you're processing at high speed, and you can just dump tons of garbage, and they come out the other side as bliss. And you say, how can the breath do that? I mean, all you have to do is breathe. But catch yourself. How many times during the day, if you're really working and you're diligent and you're trying to get something done, stop yourself and just pay attention. You're usually holding your breath, or you're breathing very shallowly. You're locking this trauma of, I got to get it done, or I've got to be perfect, into your body, and adding more trauma to your system besides maybe being nervous and emotional and mentally challenged and all of this. So you're just affecting every bit of your whole being. And so breathing and letting it go, just make yourself breathe deeply several times. I have a friend in Key West. He actually sets his watch every 30 minutes to beep. It just gives one little beep, nothing intrusive. So even if he's in a meeting or at church, it just gives one little tiny beep. But it's his reminder to take a deep breath. And you deserve that breath. And so if you just continually catch yourself, if something startles you, what's the first thing you do? You go, and suck in all the air. And so be conscious of your breathing. That's one way that you can let it loose and free yourselves of that drama and that trauma. So the breath, that's the one session that we do as we travel that we do have a fee for. And it's because it's so high process oriented and it's all day. And people need to have an investment in that one. It's too easy when that stuff starts coming up for somebody to say, I'm out of here, I don't want to do this. If they have an investment in it, they'll stay there and they'll go to completion on it, and then they'll be so glad. So that's just one of the tools that we use. If you go to our website, we have all of our DVDs and CDs out there, and you can get those, rewatch them. Michael says that we've built a technology in it so that every time you watch it that you get something else. But what that is you're building brain cells. And that's not physical cells within the little 3-pound mass called your brain. You have brain cells through your whole body. And, you may have something in your wrist. You may have something in your knee. And if you touch it or hit it, that a memory can come forth out of that. The same place where our dream state comes, we have all these memories and things stored away in our system, in our structure. And so it's time to let them go, time to release them, time to free those cells so they can go back to perfect health. 646-200-4169. We have 18 minutes. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. See what's happening in the chat room real quick. Peacemaker says master multitasker. Thank you. I appreciate your support. Peacemaker is here almost every day, and he always has comments, and it's just awesome support. There's a lot of you. I know that you're out there every day listening, and we do appreciate you being on the show. We appreciate you tuning in and turning people onto the website. Like I said, be sure and check out the new one. It has a whole new look. We've actually just created some little mental worksheets, mobile app. There's all kinds of things out there. So go out there and check all that out. Like I said, you're liable to run across some links that aren't connected right now, but we're getting there. So just be patient with us. Let me check and see if anything's going on in the chat room, on the switchboard. Nobody has any questions. All right, welcome back, Peacemaker. I saw you disappear for a second. And so 646-200-4169, press 1. So one of our other tools that we have, we talked a little bit about the codependence. Well, let me go back on that. One of the sheets that's out there is our worksheets that you can download. It'll say codependence, standard dependence. And it tells you to list all the people who have offended you. I'm really surprised how many times we pass that sheet out and people go, oh, I'm never offended. And it's like, I think you're lying to yourself. I mean, even if it's someone cut you off in the road, or whether you wanted somebody to be on time and they were late, whatever it is, there's some little offense. And so we tell you to list people who have offended you, what their offense was, what punishment thought you wanted to pass on to them, and then what advice you would give them. Now, the punishment might be, I'm not going to talk to them, I'm going to avoid them, I want to hit them, I want to scream at them, whatever. Be honest, the worksheet's only for you and your benefit. And then the advice might be things like, be truthful, be honest, be respectful, whatever. And then the last column is, how am I going to apply that advice to my life? And then look at how many times have I not been respectful to myself, as well as perhaps how many times have I not been respectful to another person, or how many times have I not been honest with myself or treated myself lovingly. It'll give you a whole new insight onto your codependence. I do have a caller. Thank you. Area code 413. You're on the air. Who do I have?
Hi, Jeanie. Linda calling from Massachusetts. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you doing, girl?
Good. Great show. Thank you. I really appreciate you
Thank
today.
you.
I have a question.
Awesome.
I'm feeling like and I guess I need to do worksheets on this. I'm feeling a little bit stuck with the worksheets. Like it doesn't feel like much is moving. And although everything's kind of quiet right now, and I remember hearing you say on a show once, and I don't remember which one it was, that you when you do your worksheet, you do it kind of like a prayer. And I wondered if you could talk about that a little bit. And I thought maybe I could just maybe change the way I do the worksheet a little bit, and maybe that would help move things. Excuse me.
Right. Sure. What I do is I just hit the wrong X and just shut my switchboard off, so I'll have to sign back on while I'm talking here. Oh, me, such fun. What I do is, I still do the regular worksheets at times, but I have a journal. And I actually read a book. I picked up a book called Writing Down Your Soul, and a really powerful book. And it just kind of jumped out at me one day when I think we were in a Unity church in their bookstore, and I saw it on the shelf, and it just was like, wow. So I picked that up and started reading it, and it was talking about journaling the things that are up in your face. And so I thought, okay, so I started journaling, but then I took it a step further and started journaling my worksheets. So sometimes it's a regular just journal, and one of the things she says is first pick a name that seems right for you, that you call the creator or the higher source or God or, whatever you want to call it. And so I call him Yahweh. And so once you find the name that you want to write to, then it's more personal. So I'll write, I'll start out and I'll say, Dear Yahweh. And so looking at the worksheet as you go along, and of course I've done so many of them, I've kind of got got it in my head what order it's in, but like I might say, Dear Yahweh, today we went, to town and this person made this comment and it really brought up frustration for me. And the thought behind it is, and I'll just kind of go down through the worksheet, but I'll write it as a letter like I'm writing to Yahweh. And, this is what I feel, and I know this is the goal that I held, and I'm asking you to help me I want to release that goal. I want to cancel that goal, and I want to return to being who I know I'm supposed to be. And so I write it, and then the more that you do that, it becomes more natural. You don't have to actually look at the worksheet, and go step by step. But to me, it takes it a little bit deeper because it's like if, you've got a best friend and you're writing to them a letter of something that's in your face just because you want to unload to them. And so, to me, it made it a little more personal, that I was asking for help. And so I just write it out to them like that. And it just seems to take it to a little bit deeper level than just doing the worksheet itself. A lot of times I do what I call backing into a worksheet. Perhaps there's not a particular event that has taken place, but maybe, I get up one day and I just feel, let's say afraid. Mm-hmm. And so I'll go to the worksheet and I'll immediately put in, I'm afraid on 1C and the thought that's behind that. And then I'll try to think, okay, what's the thought, that something bad's going to happen or whatever. And I just kind of back into it. I fill in the blanks that are like in my face that I know. Or, maybe I know I've got a goal for somebody. I want, David to weed eat the front yard, or I want Michael to clean the van, or, whatever. And so I'll start out with, I know this is my goal. And then back into what am I feeling, what's the thought behind it. Or, I perhaps will even have something in my face and will immediately see number 6. That, I see this is a pattern in my life, that this is something that's been going on for me since I was a child. So it's not that you have to do the worksheet step by step going down. A lot of times I'll fill in worksheets right where I know that I am and then back into it and fill in the rest. And sometimes that's a little bit, a different way to approach it too.
Oh, that's really good. I can hear, I can feel when you were explaining how you do your journaling, a little journaling with the worksheet. It just really resonated with me. So and then also just making it fresher, like starting not at 1A every time,
right.
Starting somewhere else.
It gives it a little bit of a twist. And if you still have some stuck issues too, there's a section that we put out there for facilitators that we're doing support groups. So if you go to over in the menu column, go to support group, then you can, there's a section that says stuck points. And so you can click on that, and it's kind of areas where when I was running a support group that I saw people would get stuck, and how, so it's just some suggestions that I would offer to other people, how they could get past that. Michael's on the phone with us now. Perhaps he has something else he wants to add to that too. Michael? Maybe not. Okay.
Well, thank you, Jeanie. What was the name of that book, Writing Down Your Soul, S-O-U-L?
Yeah.
Okay.
Writing, S-O-U-L, yeah, Writing Down My Soul, or Your Soul.
Well, that's really helpful because I'm feeling a little bit like I'm going through the motions, just like, help you. And then, right. Which I guess sometimes, that's not so bad, but I just feel like I need to take a different tact, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, shift it around a little bit every now and then, make it a little bit different, and that might take it to a different level.
Yeah. And I'll
awesome.
check out the duck points, too, on the website. Great. Well, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Very helpful.
Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, too. You're doing a great job. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 646-200-4169. We have about 7 minutes left. I see Michael has now joined us.
I have, and we just finished evaluations for the teachers training intensive, so we had a lot of processing, a lot of discussion going on. We closed the teachers training workshop out today, and some awesome and monumental changes, and people scored on the personal code evaluation. Actually, we've got a psychologist, Dr. Tim, who's on the show so often, who was at the teacher's training. And when we're getting ready to present the evaluations, had him look at a couple of them, and the evaluation is based on a thing called the MMPI, which is kind of the gold standard of psychological testing. And I showed him some of these scores, and Dr. Tim said, well, in the psychological world, they just say, that's just not possible. You can't do that in 9 days. It's not conceivable. You can't get those kinds of changes. And of course, we have the blessing of getting to work with the original tools from the Aramaic that produce the kind of changes in people's lives that are in the traditional world absolutely impossible, inconceivable. And Dr. Tim said the only way that you could get these kinds of changes would be if the validity score went down to just about zero, meaning basically that people are lying. And almost everybody in this intensive, their validity score went up, right up to the top rate, almost to 100. And so it's been just an amazing, incredible time with what's been happening with people here. And we extend the energy to everybody on the show. Several of our regular participants haven't been around because they've been here in the intensive and doing their work, and so we'll probably start hearing from them again as the intensive winds down and people start heading back home. And we've just had an awesome time here. We've got a few days left at Heartland, and then we'll be back on the road again. Jeanie, do we have anything happening in the chat room to be aware of, or any callers that we could be saying hello to personally?
No, everything's quiet on the home front. I've kind of jumped from subject to subject.
Well, thank you for doing that. I know it's difficult to just be thrown in the middle of it. I thought we'd be finished the workshop a little earlier, but we ended up doing some pretty powerful process work, and it's been an awesome 17 days, 9-day segment of teacher training, 9-day wise. Just happening to me again. It's just been beyond fabulous. And of course, our invitation to you is to pick up the tools. I presume that you've spoken about where to find the forgiveness tool, Jeanie, in the download worksheet section on whyagain.org.
Yep, I did.
Cool. So everybody, if this is a conversation that interests you and it's new to you, we invite you to go to the website, whyagain.com, whyagain.org. It's just coming online now. We were talking in the workshop, too, the people that are here redoing our website are saying it'll probably be 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll be online with whyagain.org full blown, which is going to be pretty awesome. website and download the worksheets, download the radio shows where we go over the worksheet. You've got a custom set of instructions, and we're here to support you. The kinds of things that happen, everybody in the intensive just now, as we've gone over the evaluation scores, changes where people come with, on a scale of 100, with love of self scores of 0 or 5 or 10, and love of others of 11, and freedom from fear at 10. Just like unbelievable burdens that people carry in the world. And they come and do a 9-day intensive, and all of a sudden on freedom from fear, they're at a 95, and love for self, they're at a 92, and love for others at a 97, and seeing those kinds of changes happen in people's lives and the load that goes with it. We've had 4 combat vets here at this particular intensive, and to watch the changes, one of the young men was just, you've heard him speak, he's been on the show several times, Michael, in some of the earlier shows, you'll remember him talking about how when he came back from the Middle East with so much anger and rage that he would literally troll through crack neighborhoods, not to look for crack, but to hope that somebody would jump out and try to take him on so he'd have an opportunity to express his rage by beating on somebody. And now teaching forgiveness and just watching the changes. It's been such a privilege and such an honor to have everybody here that's been here. And for our listening audience, I'm sure you'll hear the voices of some of those folks sharing some of their experiences from the last, actually, Michael and Margaret have been here for a month now, 28 days today.
And they had a beautiful commitment ceremony this morning down at the lake at 7:30.
Yeah, we had 3 couples here that each entered into relationship commitment ceremonies. So that was pretty cool, pretty sweet. So it's just amazing to see and amazing to be part of.
So we're down to about less than 2 minutes, so keep an eye on our website where we're going to be traveling. Like I said earlier, if there's a place near you that you have a venue for us and it's en route somewhere from Canada to San Diego, California, give us a call or email us and let's see if we can get our schedules together.
Yes, and when we travel, we actually are going to be doing some writing over the next couple of months. Rewriting-wise, is happening to me again. We'll be republishing that and doing it in an ebook format as well. So you'll want to keep an eye on the website. That'll be announced. But we haven't actually rounded anything in terms of where our schedule can take us exactly at this point. We've got several things kind of in the offing, but looking at what our writing time and travel time is going to be. So an invitation, and we'll see if we can adjust things to move in your direction as we're traveling either across the northern part of the country, heading west, and then coming back from California and heading back to Heartland for summer season next year. Our schedule is established. It'll be on the website within a day or two for our intensive season next year. We'd be delighted to hear from you. And other than that, take the tools, put them to work in your life. And maybe you can tell the energy of the workshop has just been so overwhelming that I'm actually kind of a little speechless. And it's been pretty awesome.
And so we're out of time, so we want to just tell you to come back tomorrow, bring somebody with you, same time, same station, and have the best year yet of your eternal life.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.